Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And today on the Rita Cosby Show, as we are covering so many developments, what a busy news day with everything with Nancy Guthrie. We're going to continue talking about that very troubling case. Also, President Trump keeping an eye on Minneapolis. He was at the National Prayer Breakfast, which is a beautiful event in Washington. I've been there many times. And today he spoke to the crowd and talked about how important it was to go after those people who stormed that Minnesota church not that long ago. And remember, Don Lemon was inside that church. Take a listen.
Really brave. The Department of Justice recently charged 9 individuals for storming a church in Minnesota during a worship service and trampling on Americans' First Amendment rights. I watched that tape, and, that was violent. I saw the people sitting there, Pam, and they were scared. Some were scared and some were holding up their hands like, I believe in God. But they were violent people. Screaming, your parents are Nazis. Your parents are Nazis. The people are sitting away. And I thought the minister was great. He was so calm and good. They're screaming at him. Terrible. Right in the middle of a church service. It's got to be illegal. I mean, Pam is doing it. I'm not doing it, but Pam is doing it. And I'll tell you, people are happy with the job that's taking place because they're bad people. They're bad people. You have one Trump hater in particular that I watched his performance. It was terrible. They try and use freedom of press and all this to get out of a criminal event. But that was a horrible thing to witness. And if we allowed that to go on, you wouldn't be able to have a church. No, everybody would be afraid to go to church. And that we are not going to allow, are we, huh?
So powerful to be saying that, of course, to an enormous crowd of believers there. And you can't have it happen. You can't have it happen to a mosque. You can't have it happen at a temple. And I'm glad to see that they are cracking down on those who played a role in that horrible, it wasn't a peaceful protest. It was like a threat, a terror threat. Can you imagine you sitting in church and there were kids, crying and shivering and, screaming, Mommy, are we going to die? What goes through your mind when you see that? A lot of horrible things. It's really terrible. Meantime, the White House is also keeping a very close eye on everything happening in the Nancy Guthrie case, the mother of Savannah Guthrie. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary today, said that she waited for the briefing for about an hour because she and the president were watching this briefing that took place by the FBI and the local sheriff. And she said that they wanted to see what was happening and what the latest was, that the president is obviously very concerned. He knows Savannah, and he knows how horrible and terrible this case is. And he has vowed to give every sort of asset possible to try to save her mother and figure out who did this. Take a listen. This is Caroline Leavitt today at the White House.
Peter. Thanks, Caroline. President Trump posted about Nancy Guthrie that he is directing all federal law enforcement to be at the family's and local law enforcement's complete disposal immediately. What should we expect to see from the federal government in coming days in the search to find Nancy Guthrie?
It's a very good question, Peter, and it's why I was on the phone with the FBI earlier this morning to ask that. And what they told me is that the FBI, again, is at the disposal of the state and local government. Whatever personnel or assets or resources that the state and local authorities and police need will be granted to them at the direction of the president, the FBI director, and the attorney general.
And that is obviously heartening to hear that they're getting all those assets. When you have the president's attention and when it's a case that is making these kind of headlines, they will not leave any stone unturned. The question is, here it is. It's going into day 6. That's a long time for a woman who needed medication. You would assume they made some preparations for that. We don't know. But the scary detail is it is now one deadline has passed, according to one of the ransom notes that was sent out. And the second one says essentially the second deadline is Monday afternoon, or something really horrible essentially is going to happen. And you can imagine what that might be. This is really frightening stuff. So that's why just a little bit ago, Cameron Guthrie, who is the brother of Savannah Guthrie, the son of Nancy Guthrie, pleaded and said to the attacker, he put out another video. This was just him. Yesterday, it was all three of the kids, all the siblings. Today, it was just him. And he is a former Air Force pilot, and in a very direct way said, we need a way to communicate with you. He is clearly talking directly to the kidnapper, saying, we need to hear from you. Let's talk. Let's figure this out. Family to you. We're asking for a way to communicate, because in those letters, according to Harvey Levin, who just put this out from TMZ a little bit ago, the guy was saying, we won't communicate. There's not another way to communicate. This is it. Put the money in or else. So the family is clearly desperate right now, as any family would be given this situation. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Liz in Florida. Liz, your thoughts tonight.
I'm so upset about this.
Me too.
I first of all, if there were more God-fearing people in this world, there would be less crime. So, don't they always say that you look at the family? I just feel like something is not kosher. That person was very familiar with the house.
Yes.
And, you just think maybe a family member hired someone to go in. And if it was, maybe, we hope that they're going to, not harm her. But here's my thought. This is what I'm thinking in my head, because, you start thinking and you say, what would you do if you wanted to kidnap somebody? Well, you want to prove that it was you, so they would take pictures of, I guess, the scene, so you can go back and say, okay, this is where where this was and where the phone was put. So I'm wondering if Apple, and it's probably an Apple that they have, can use some sort of satellite to find out what phone they used at that specific time in that home. Maybe it can be tracked like that.
Well, by the way, that's what they're trying to do. That so far they've gotten nothing. I think her phone, I believe, was left behind. I believe that's the case. Nancy's I'm talking about. And remember, the cameras on the outside were removed. There was some figure. They saw that there was a registration of what looked like to be a person going by. Remember, like around 2 a.m. So it looks like that could have been the individual. But I agree with you. There's something fishy here. And I don't know what, beyond obviously the horribleness of what's happened. But if you listen to I keep going back, Liz, what do you make of the fact today? And I always listen for verbiage. I've covered you guys many, many stories through the years, as you guys know. And I always kind of listen. What does the sheriff say? What words does he use or not use, or the FBI uses or not use? And there were a couple moments here today, and I keep going back to the part. He gave all this specificity about the timeline of when, the camera, they believe was removed, was disabled. Right. Then they give the information about the app not connecting with the pacemaker at a certain time. In other words, that's when she was probably removed from the house because it was more than 20 feet away from it at that point. So there's a lot of very specificity. And then they said who dropped her off, because they said she took an Uber to her daughter's house. They did say they interviewed the Uber driver, and it sounded like that was sort of ruled out, but we'll see. But it sort of sounded that way. So then the question is, who dropped her off? And they said, so was it Annie, the sister, or was it her husband? And then he said, all I can essentially say is it's family. That's it. He wouldn't go further. And why would you not say, oh, it's the sister, or it was this, he dropped her off, or they both dropped each other off, or it was odd to me that. And then at one point he said, we're not ruling anybody in. We're not ruling anybody out. Sometimes people who look like suspects could end up being victims. And that kind of went back to family or friends too. How do you read that, Liz?
Well, they want to tell you what they want to tell you. They don't want to tell you everything. And perhaps if they said, okay, Annie dropped off the mother, well, why didn't you walk her in? Did you just leave her there? And then they'll, maybe she'll get all these phone calls. They want to just probably not give too much information to maybe protect, the family. I mean, I don't know.
But to me, it would provide details. Maybe somebody could say, "Oh, I saw two women walking down the driveway," or if it was the guy, well, did she seem distressed? I didn't hear anything about that either. I haven't heard. How did she leave? How was she emotionally after dinner? Was it a regular dinner? Did they have a fight over dinner? Did somebody watch them? There's so many different things. Did somebody watch them per se drop off? Was there something suspicious they saw on the drive home, that someone was following them, or a weird person, or somebody kept calling that person on the phone? Did somebody in the family owe money? Was there a gardener who happened to visit the house earlier in the day, or a a care person, somebody helping with her physical needs? I don't know. There's still a lot of these sort of tentacles. There seemed like there were a number of people coming in and out of that house that need to be questioned. And they even brought that up. They said they're talking to the Uber people. They're talking to, a gardener, someone who does her laundry. There's a lot of people, but it seems like it's someone who knew the house and knew the proximity. So to me, it would be relevant to know, was there anybody who was angry? Was there anybody around the family who seemed desperate for money that maybe just saw Nancy as a target of opportunity, unbeknownst to the family? I mean, there's a lot of questions here, Liz.
Right. And I'm sure that they're looking into everything. And I'm sure that they looked at the video wherever they had dinner just to take a look at the dynamics of the family and the meal. And if
who was sitting next to them at the restaurant? Was there somebody who overheard something? You don't know.
Years ago, they used psychics.
Actually, I need to correct myself because I think she went over to the house. She took an Uber to the daughter's house. They had dinner at the daughter's house.
Oh, okay.
So the restaurant's ruled out. Exactly. That's another interesting layer. You just reminded me of that.
Right. But, I was going to say that years ago, they used psychics to try to find people.
Yep.
And I haven't heard that in a long time. Have you?
I haven't. I mean, who knows? They may be turning to them now because they really seem desperate for clues. Now, do you think this is a sophisticated person or not? Michael, who called things obviously pretty sophisticated. They planned a lot of these things. And so far, 6 days in, it seems like the FBI and the local police don't have an idea or proof. And then on the other hand, it's a little odd to say, hey, Bitcoin and all this other stuff. But so far, I'm actually shocked that they haven't gotten a suspect.
I think it was pre-planned, and I'm wondering if she had an Alexa. I mean, I always think Alexa is always listening, so maybe they can go that route. But for sure, I really believe it's pre-planned. And it's a very scary time right now.
Yeah, it is. It's really scary. And I think if they had an Alexa, we would know that. And I think they would have been able to make an arrest immediately. And obviously, I think whoever did this knows that she has certain electronic devices and other ones, knew enough to somehow get in the house and get away from the cameras and take the camera off the door. I mean, that's a pretty sophisticated, pre-planned. How did they get in the house? They won't say if it's forced entry or not. That's another clue. If it's not forced entry, well, then who had access? Or did they know she had the back door was open all the time? Maybe sometimes in, rural areas, sometimes they keep the back door open. Or did they know where she hid a key? We don't know. It may have been somebody who's been to the house a million times, or a friend of that person who went one day and said, so-and-so's taking care of this very fancy house. Here's something we got to do. We need the money for this. We need the money for that. It's very odd. And that's why I think there's something close to her or her family. The other thing too, and by the way, everybody, I read your posts on Twitter all the time. And Sal was asking, why does Nancy Grace, who's one of the great crime journalists out there, believe that it was a man? I did hear that also, where she said it on TV earlier, and I want to tell everybody where she's going to be on Katz and Cosby tomorrow on WABC. She's going to be on with us. So I'm going to ask her that question because I did hear that too, that she believes it's a guy. Why is that? And is it one person too? It seems very sophisticated in a lot of ways, so much so that so far the best law enforcement agency in the world has not been able to pursue this in a way to track the individual down. That says it all. That is stunning. 1-800-848-9222. We're going to continue after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And later on this hour, I'm going to talk about some of the comments that came from Tricia McLaughlin. She is the Assistant Secretary at the Department of Homeland Security. We talked with her earlier, and she provided some really powerful numbers about how many people they have deported and also how many people they've stopped at the border. Really amazing numbers. It's in the millions, guys. What a difference a president who cares about law and order makes in our country. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Sandra on line 3. Sandra, your thoughts tonight.
Well, I was wondering, the $50,000 that the FBI would offer to get some information, what happens if they just gave that to Bitcoin and get the mother back? Do it like that? I don't know. I just wondered. I was just thinking that.
The problem is they're not asking for $50,000. We haven't heard the exact amount, but there's been references to millions. So yeah, they're not asking for $50,000, which is why they seem like major sophisticated. They're asking for enormous amount of money. They're asking for it at this Bitcoin's account. And quite frankly, you hit on a great point. $50,000, that is a lot of money. I'm not going to poo-poo $50,000. I actually think the money should be a lot more. At this moment,
well, just to get us started, you know what I mean? To get them started.
Well, I actually think for a different reason, Sandra. I actually think they should put out a whole bunch of money for people in the public to turn somebody in or to get the return of Nancy Guthrie. I think they need to I would put the money towards public efforts too, because maybe there's got to be somebody out there. I mean, I find it hard to believe that it's somebody, sitting in their basement who hasn't talked to anybody or didn't have some weird activity that somebody else doesn't know about it. Don't you think there's something else here?
Well, that's what the $50,000 was for, to reward the person who helps them. But
yeah, and what I'm saying is up it. I'm saying that $50,000 in my mind is not enough. If this person's asking for big money, I think you need to put it up a lot higher. So maybe somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to turn in my brother or my neighbor or my friend."
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And who knows where Nancy Guthrie is tonight? Clearly, her kids are pleading for her safe return. As we were talking with Sandra, there's a $50,000 reward for information leading to her return or the arrest of individuals tied to this. And also, remember, it's about 60 miles from the southern border. So earlier today, we were getting an update on the situation at the border on Katz and Cosby. We talked to the Assistant Secretary at Department of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin. And here's what she had to say. This is really amazing, the success that the Trump administration has had on the border.
Secretary Noem was just at the border yesterday. She was actually just at the northern and the southern border. This is 9 months in a row with 0 crossings. I mean, what they've done is nothing short of miraculous as far as all of the injunctions that President Trump, Secretary Noem, and this administration have faced. More than 3 million illegal aliens have exited the United States, including over 2 million self-deportation. So really good news out of the border. We'll keep that coming. Countless lives saved, with fentanyl trafficking being down 54%. We know those cartels are getting desperate. They're starting to make their way to our maritime borders, but our Coast Guard and the Navy have been on top of it, and they're cracking down on those as well.
And by the way, speaking of cracking down, we're learning that Department of Homeland Security and DOJ, of course, deeply involved in this, arrested a guy named Kyle Wagner. They're saying a self-identified Antifa domestic terrorist in Minneapolis who conspired to threaten, dox, and kill ICE officers. He is charged with numerous federal crimes. So bravo for getting this guy. And I hope they end up getting a whole bunch more because they are getting out of control in Minneapolis. And earlier today, we talked with Rod Blagojevich, of course, who is the former governor of Illinois, about the report that there are up to about 1,000 blockades that they're planning to put. These are anti-ICE protesters that are putting up these blockades saying, oh, we need your ID. We need this information in order for you to pass. Can you imagine? Talk about lawlessness in America. Here's Rod Blagojevich with his take, guys.
Baba, no! Hey, put the knife down! Put the knife down!
And we're trying to find that. This is Rod Blagojevich, who was on earlier today on Katz and Cosby, and he was talking about the different blockades. He was also saying, by the way, that a lot of Democratic rhetoric has really contributed to this. He's talked about how Jerry Nadler, some of the comments that Jerry Nadler has made has just been downright troubling, and how so many of these others that have been coming out with the rhetoric. I mean, you've got Chuck Schumer talking about secret police. You've got all of these issues talking about, riling up these protesters. Many of them don't seem like they need a lot of riling up. They're already out of control. Well, here's Rod Blagojevich. Here's that comment. All this craziness happening in Minneapolis. And if you look at the latest reports, they're saying these anti-ICE activists want to set up 1,000 blockades, 1,000 checkpoints. I mean, this is how can you have a city like that?
Well, I mean, this is what the new politics in America is. The Democratic Party has been taken over by Bolsheviks, socialists, anarchists, and people who hate America. And they're being funded by people who have a lot of money from other countries.
Well, you know what, Rod? You know what they're doing? They're taking the billions of dollars that were stolen off the front page of the media.
Yeah, sure. It's really disgraceful. I was just asked a question just moments ago, and it was about what happened to the Democratic Party. Who's the leader of the Democratic Party? I said there is no one leader. It's the leaders of the Democratic Party today are these crazy left-wing Bolshevik socialist activists who have taken the party hostage, and all of these different presidential candidates who are Democrats are pandering to them because they're afraid of them, because they use these Marxist tactics and are organized, and they're getting funded by those people from other places who don't like our country and are frankly enemies to our country.
Yeah, speaking of acting like enemies to our country, you're right. Completely against the values of America. And I want to play this because we're just getting word that not that long ago, a few hours ago, dozens of people were protesting outside of Columbia's university and essentially demanding, I should say, that the university declare itself a sanctuary campus. Talking about no ICE on campus, like not allowing ICE in any shape or form on campus, and blocking apparently the gates to the university. So they're blocking university gates. Remember, they were doing obviously all this crazy stuff with the pro-Palestinians. That's where so many of those protests were on Columbia campus. They set up all the little tents and everything else, and now they're blocking the gates of the university. Boy, oh boy, and the weather's still cold. Wait till it gets warmer, guys. That's what I'm afraid of. And here's some of the sounds from some of the protesters blocking that road just a little bit ago. Columbia University in New York.
No KKK, no fascist USA. No ICE. 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 No KKK, no fascist USA.
I mean, this is just crazy, but you know what it sounds a lot like? It sounds a lot like Minneapolis. Here's Minneapolis.
Predators, you get the out of here. Wait for me. You predator! Back up. You! Back up. What the are you gonna do? You! Oh, I'm cooking. I don't have a gun, bitch.
Wow. Nice guy. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania, line 1. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Good evening, Rita. I have a lot of things to say, but I actually do want to make one comment on Savannah Guthrie's mother.
Absolutely. We're talking about that a lot tonight, so absolutely.
Yeah, but I really do want to get to our caver-in-chief, though. But anyway, when it comes down to the money, it happened to my mother-in-law a number of years ago. She got scammed out of $95,000 because somebody called her and said that they were from the IRS. And they apparently knew enough about her because my brother-in-law has now I forget. Diane, what does Warren have?
Go ahead. Don't worry, Joaquin. Just proceed on. What happened? So what happened with your mom?
He's not quite right. But anyway, so they scared her and said that they were from the IRS and that they were going to come and they were going to arrest him, drag him out of the house if she didn't, pay them off or whatever. And so she paid the $95,000. And when finally, the family found out about this and they got in touch with the authorities, they said that there is no way to track the money. Okay, once that money goes into Bitcoin, unfortunately, that money is going to be untrackable.
Wow. So wait, hang on, Joaquin. Quick thing. This was your mom or your mother-in-law?
My mother-in-law.
All right. So was it transferred into Bitcoin? Is what they asked for?
No, I don't know exactly what she did. I guess she gave them her banking information. And then they cleaned out her bank account.
And you know what is really, and you hit on a powerful point because a lot of elderly people do get scammed. I mean, sent messages saying, hey, click here, and it's not even someone they know. Or you're so-and-so's in danger, send us money. And they don't realize it's, one of these crazy scams. Some prince from Nigeria needs help. There's a lot of these crazy things that are coming often to elderly people. So who knows? Do you think that age played a role in this case with Nancy? I mean, clearly it was easier to abduct her because she couldn't move. Apparently she had a lot of health issues.
Right. Yeah, it's really hard to say. Unfortunately, there's so many different possible scenarios. My gut feeling tells me, and I hate to be negative, but as time is going on, I'm afraid that, the worst is going to be the outcome. And to pay money to somebody and have them get away with it, it's just, it just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. And especially if they can't show any signs.
But it's her mother. The problem is, and Joaquin, I hear what you're saying. Just because, you don't know where it's going, you would hopefully assume that there'd be some way to trace it if they were to give the money. On the other hand, if it's your mother and the person says there will be no other communication, so far there hasn't been, and then they're saying Monday's the deadline, or very serious consequences, that's chilling. That is such a hard decision. But I also wouldn't blame them if they gave money and then they hopefully FBI can trace it instantaneously where it's going. Maybe there's some more sophisticated than what's out there. Joaquin, we just have a minute or two left, but I want to make sure you get to the other topic too, because I know you've been holding. Okay. You're great.
Yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, I am disappointed in President Trump. I posted some things. I said President Trump or caver-in-chief, because his backing down right now. The left turns up, the heat. They turn the temperature up.
Now, how's he caving? What do you mean by pulling out the 700 federal agents?
By going in there and basically almost admitting that they did something wrong, and pulling whoever was running the show out there, and then saying he's pulling agents and he's going to go for the lighter touch while they're ramping it up. So it's rewarding the left for their bad behavior, and their behavior is getting worse all the time. And the other thing, too, that everybody's kind of, misinterpreting is that us in MAGA, and I don't know if he hurt the midterms right now because of what he did, because I think a lot of MAGA is going to be very disappointed in this.
The problem is, but Joaquin, the problem is that people are going out of control. He's trying to bring the temperature down. By the way, if he totally pulled out of Minnesota, I would have said that is horrible. Like you can't reward bad behavior. The only reason that I think, if you look at it, I think it's still 2,000 officers there. So they pulled out 7,000. So a third of them, if you will. Right. But apparently there's still 2/3 left. And Homan says we are going full throttle, and they're getting a little bit more cooperation from some of the county jails and others there. And that's what he says. So I think they're just short term trying to turn the temperature down. But Fry doesn't seem to be willing to do anything. Small Fry, as we call him, and at some point you can't reward bad behavior, but at least they can say, hey, we tried. We tried, we did this, we tried. And they're still not cooperating. There's no, maybe it's a sign of good faith. And look, if it works and turns the temperature down, that's great. But if it doesn't, then I agree. I think they need to go back in. They cannot reward bad behavior and look like they're running away. And they're not, according to Homan. It's a sign of good faith, and we're expecting you to do something on the other end. So I hear what you're saying, but I think it's too early to make any sort of assessment like that. But boy, oh boy, Joaquin, I think, as you heard, with the weather getting crazy, you just heard what they did in Columbia University. They don't want to have anything tied to a sanctuary status, and they're blocking the openings to Columbia University. Is this what we're in store for? Now that school is back, is this what we're in store for? That's a boy, oh boy, guys. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Lauren in New Jersey on line 2. Go ahead, Lauren.
Hey, Rita. It's just a lot that doesn't make sense, because most security companies have access to the security camera footage from private residences, and they're stored in cloud services, storage. That is maintained for a period of time. So all of that, like days prior to and days after, would be stored somewhere to be viewed. And on everyone's security cameras, Ring, all of that, haven't they reviewed the vehicles, the cars, the people on the roads, surrounding that residence during that period of time or prior, to see if there's a connection between in the past? And now, these groups are using drones to case homes, as well as hiding small cameras in shrubbery around homes to case the homes. And I'm sure they've interviewed all the service people who have been in that residence over the past year or two, because most of these things are inside jobs. So again, even though those cameras were disabled or torn out, there should be footage stored.
By the way, that's what I would surmise. The problem is, apparently, there is maybe it elapsed the service. It seems like there were other issues beyond that made it difficult for them to get any images. And so far, the only thing they have is that there was some figure that they surmise was a human. They said it could be an animal, but a human at that time. But I hear what you're saying. So far, they're saying they're not able to get access to it. So I'm surprised with the FBI involved that they're not getting it in 2 seconds. But so what can the FBI do? Look, the FBI says they've been trying for several days. So far, nothing, according to them, at least what they're saying publicly.
It doesn't make sense, because with all the people around in the area, not everybody's security cameras could have been having problems.
I agree.
So between that and the cameras, you can't go anywhere in this country without being on a camera. So and the roads in the area, I mean, they had to take her out with a vehicle. They didn't they didn't come in on a drone and lift her out in a drone. So I don't understand how they're not getting information.
I agree,
from all
Lauren.
the surveillance.
100%. I agree with you. You would think that there'd be so much information, and they seem to be genuine that they're clueless about it because they're talking about putting these posters out. You see the family pleading. You would think that if they had anything that resembled like a vehicle, like you said, that was seen on a camera, even if they can't see like a license plate, because Arizona is a single license plate state, so it could be on the back, but you'd be able to see a car. There's so many things. I agree with you. That's what makes this so confusing as to why that could be. Why did the killer know something? The attempted killer, I should say. Did the, did this individual take her? Did something go awry? Was there some other master plan? They seem pretty sophisticated that they haven't had some sort of digital footprint yet. And I'm still praying that she is alive. I am absolutely praying she's alive. And you can tell the family's really getting worried because it is odd that you don't have any of these basic things. So it begs the question, why? And I agree with you. That to me is one of the most perplexing parts of all of this. Well, hopefully we'll know more soon, and hopefully Nancy Guthrie comes home. Lauren, thank you. You got to call back again. You made some great points. 1-800-848-9222. We're going to continue after the break, everybody. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Lake Buena Vista, Florida, where a World War II U.S. Army veteran, Herb Manilevig, was honored for his 101st birthday. I love this. During Disney World's flag retreat ceremony. The happiest place on earth just got more magical for this one guest celebrating his big 101st birthday. And by the way, during the war, this veteran served as a private in the U.S. Army's 106th Infantry Division during the very historic Battle of the Bulge. He was wounded in the battle, and he was later awarded the Purple Heart. And how beautiful to see him and his family recognized at Disney World. And everybody, all it takes is just $11 a month. Donate just $11 a month to the absolutely incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out. They do so much good. Check them out at T2T.org, T2T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls. What a busy news night. And another plea from Savannah Guthrie's sibling, her brother Cameron, who is a former military guy, saying to the person who he believes took his mother, we need to communicate, we need to talk. It is just heartbreaking to see this, but understandable while they know the clock is ticking. Let's go to Tom in Hell's Kitchen, line 1. Tom, what do you think?
Hi, Rita. Concerning the kidnappers, they're going to catch them by the meta information. It's probably just going to take a little more manpower.
Why is it taking so long, Tom? Because this is times of the essence because of her age and the medicine.
I think the crypto is a diversion, and it's costing them manpower. They should concentrate on cell phone towers, internet radio, satellite radio.
I think they're looking at that. Remember, they brought over this device. It's called a Celebrite, and they brought it over to the sister's home. So they're marrying, I think, devices and a whole bunch more over there. So it sounds to me like they are indeed trying that route. I think they're trying everything. Let's see what we find out tomorrow, guys.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here? Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.